Cha-cha.
Change the face of digital photography. With the Intel Pentium 4 processor, the center of your digital world.
Thank you. Please make sure that goes out because I'd be embarrassed.
Make sure we edit what out? Sorry, I'm kidding. Is it Paul Gelsinger or Peter Gelsinger? It's neither. It's Bryan Chaffin. It's Bryan Chaffin. He's the editor-in-chief of the Mac Observer.
Yes.
Is it Paul or Peter Gelsinger? It's probably like John, isn't it? Or George or Eddie.
Who are you talking? I have no idea who you're talking about.
The CEO of Intel.
Oh, right. Let's see here. Intel CEO.
Peter Gelsinger.
It is Patrick.
It's Patrick Gelsinger. See, you can't really say that I was close, although I was kind of close. Patrick is not biblical, but it does start with a P. Plus, St. Patrick's Day was relatively recently, so I'm going to go with, I almost got it. I was that close to getting it. Boy, he's got a funny way about him, huh? Don't know why it is.
He's got a really hard job right now.
He does have a really hard job right now, and I think the best way to start off is to start poking the biggest company in the world in the eye.
Well, I mean, he's being beaten by the company that makes the iPod.
I know. Well, that made the iPod a million years ago. So if you don't know what we're talking about, Paulie Gelsinger, Patrick Gelsinger, Patio Gelsinger, he's the CEO of Intel, and right around the time that he took over, well, actually it was even before he became the CEO of Intel, when he was just named as the CEO of Intel, I believe the quote was something like, Intel should not be being beaten by this lifestyle brand. So even before he showed up for work, he was already taking a run at Apple. And then, of course, once he got there, and I don't think this was his idea, except to, maybe flavor the conversation, let's say. Right after he took over as CEO, though, that's when Intel started their ad campaign, talking about how much better computers that run Intel are than Mac computers are, even though most Mac computers actually run Intel right now. But okay, dude, that's fine. That included hiring Justin Long, who, of course, was the Mac from the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads that Apple ran very successfully for 5 or 6 years, I think, the ones with John Hodgman that were really incredibly funny and really brought the Mac to people's attention in a way that a lot of other stuff hadn't. And he started this, ad campaign using that old guy and really taking Apple apart in some, kind of funny ways, some disingenuous ways. And then came out last week and said, but really what we want is for Apple to hire us to build their chips. Because that's the other thing that they did. They said that they were building 2 plants in Arizona. Part of it was going to be used to make Intel chips for Intel, and part of it they would turn over to just being a fab. So if you had a chip design, you bring your chip design to Intel, they'll start cranking those out for you. Because
can they make them as well as TSMC? That's the question.
Well, not yet, because the factories don't even exist. See,
Could they make them as well as TSMC?
Well, obviously, we don't know that right now, but that's what's kind of funny to me. I mean, TSMC is already firing up. I want to say they're 3 nanometer. It's not going to come out this year, but I think the next year is when that's going to happen. And Intel is finally almost ready to start on their 7 nanometer, right?
Right.
So Apple is already getting
7 nanometer is cool.
Yeah, well,
but 5 is cooler, and 3 is. 5 is already ridiculous.
I'm looking for. I actually produce a great no nanometer processor.
Now that you mentioned it, I think I do too.
Where's my money? That's what I'm asking. Why am I not building those for Apple? I think I might even be.
The size of the circuits. I mean, they're basically right. You're counting the number of atoms wide they are at this point.
Right, exactly.
It's ridiculous how small TSMC is making these things. And that's part of why Apple has been kicking Intel's butt. So why in the heck would Apple hire Intel to make processors if they can't even match what TSMC is doing now?
Well, they can't do it right now, but they might be able to at some point. I mean, everything that they were talking about last week with Gelsinger, everything that they were talking about was, when they get these factories up and running, and that's going to be at least a couple of years, right?
Sure. Yeah, it is hard to make that.
At that point, I figure they are going to. At that point, I figure they're figuring that they're going to know how to do that at least as well, if not better. I mean, one of his statements was something along the lines of, we'll be able to do things here that nobody else in the world can do, which, is an easy thing to say right now because you don't even have a door to walk through yet. So, I mean, you can make that kind of grandiose claim, I suppose. I mean, I can see reasons that Apple might want to go ahead and go with the Intel fab, assuming that it can match, not the least of which is being able to say made in the USA, which I mean, obviously would have sounded better. Well, not sounded better. That would have been a more important thing to say to certain powers that be a couple of years ago, but that's never going to be a bad thing to be able to say to a U.S. market that your computer is made, well, at least the processor's made in the USA. Then we put it on the Ever Given, eventually get it to China, and they turn it into a computer that you don't want to buy because they're killing the Uyghurs. But otherwise,
I see what you did there.
Well,
the interesting thing about Intel is this: Apple told Intel what Apple wanted for years, for years and years before Mr. Gelsinger came along, and Intel just consistently failed to deliver that. Apple said we want faster using less power, and Intel said, "Great, we're going to make using more power and a different kind of faster." and I mean, like shock of shocks, Apple figured out how to get the processor that they wanted in the first place. And of course, Apple wants to control it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I am sure that Apple would use Intel's fab if they could do a better job than TSMC or anyone else in the world. I actually think that Apple would go back to Samsung if Samsung suddenly started beating TSMC.
Yeah.
I think Apple's going to have whoever can make the best processor make its processors for them. I will be pleasantly surprised if Intel could win that business. How's that for politically nice?
That's not bad. So here's the question I have. Am I being ridiculously naive to think that Gelsinger is being ridiculously silly in starting off his I really want to work with Apple thing with a hate campaign? I mean, not hate, but I mean, because here's the thing, because forgive me, here's what I started thinking about. I was like, well, this is just, I think Gelsinger said competitive fun. And I thought, okay, I could kind of see that, except they are spending millions of dollars trying to convince millions of people not to spend their thousands of dollars, which, by the way, comes out to many, many more millions of dollars than the ad money that they're spending, to not buy Apple, right? So to sit there and say, oh, this is just competitive fun and we want to work with them, they are actively spending money trying to hurt Apple's business. I mean, this isn't even like... What?
Oh, but listen, Apple did the Intel bunny commercial.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Seriously?
Yeah.
The thing where Intel had the dancing bunny series of commercials that were very popular. Well, that was, and then Apple blew them out.
Dancing bunny? No, that was Duracell that had the bunny rabbit. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, the bunny suits, man.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Are you serious?
Okay, how many times do I have to tell you I don't know what you're talking about?
But I still... I still don't believe you're.
Well, I'm telling you the truth. I remember the guys in the clean suits.
Yeah, the clean suits. Those are bunny suits.
Oh no, they're not. They're clean suits.
They're bunny suits, man.
Whatever. Okay, fine. I remember that. Yes, and then Paul Otellini came out on stage wearing one of the bunny suits, as you call it. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and Apple did the whole thing with the where they had to like put it out because it was too hot.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, and then they did business together. I mean, it's just marketing. I mean, it doesn't matter. Right. The fact that they roasted Apple, there's no way Tim's going to go, I'm not doing business with you because you did those commercials.
Because Steve Jobs would have said, I'm not doing business with you because you did those commercials.
No, Steve Jobs would have called up and said, if you want to ever do business with me, you'll kill those commercials.
Ah, okay. That's interesting. All right.
I don't think that Steve would still say no if it made sense to for them to work with Intel later.
Can we go back really quickly, because you actually said something that interested me. So when you said that Apple was asking for one thing, Intel was delivering something that was something else, right?
Yeah.
Is the problem that Intel was trying to serve too many masters? I mean, is the problem that Intel was trying to make a chip that could go into a Mac and into a Samsung and into a Chromebook and into everything else, or is the problem just that Intel didn't know what they were doing?
I would. So first of all, I think so. My understanding from contacts that I have here in Silicon Valley that have been involved with Intel is that Intel is very fiefdom oriented and has become a bit Mormon because of that.
Okay.
And that Intel found itself unable to muster the direction that it needed to muster to do what Apple was doing. More specifically, I think, and I don't have any evidence, this is strictly like my gut opinion, that Intel failed to understand that what Apple wanted was actually the thing that they should be doing.
I'm sorry, help me out.
That Intel failed to understand that the thing Apple was asking them to do.
You're saying the direction that Apple wanted to go is the direction that Intel should have been going, not because Apple wanted them to, but because that's the smart thing to do.
Correct.
All right.
That's the future.
Yeah, but I mean, then you got to drag everybody else along with you, like I say.
Correct.
I mean, Intel's got people who buy it. Well, but Intel's got people who buy it every price point, right? If what Apple was going to do was going to increase prices in any way, then don't they have to worry about bringing the Samsungs and the Sonys and the Asuses and the whoever else along with them?
I don't know, maybe.
Because I mean,
keep in mind they're getting kicked on the performance front for PCs by AMD,
right?
Right. So AMD is beating them on performance, and then Apple is beating them on performance and power. So they're just losing in all directions. So they didn't even do the thing that they were still trying to do well, which was to stick with the old-fashioned nature of PC power.
Interesting. Is AMD's and I don't know the answer, so I'm not correcting you. Is AMD's performance translating into taking market share from Intel, or is that just a thing that's happening?
It is a good question.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Because you can go for a while. I mean, and while you look that up, because I know you are, you can go for a while being who you've always been before people finally start to realize, okay, you're not who you used to be. So, Correct. Intel, first of all, has whatever deals locked up and they have name recognition because honestly, you say to me that AMD is outperforming Intel. And the first I've heard of that is when you said that a minute ago, because it's not the kind of thing that I keep up with. I mean, AMD to me is, oh yeah, they were trying to make some really, big moves for the desktop in the early 2000s. And that's just because that's the last time I personally paid attention to them. I think most consumers don't know or care about who makes the processor.
That is correct. I mean, if anything, they care about Intel Inside still, and that's
right.
That's a carryover. And I would say that young people probably couldn't give two hoots or a hoot nanny.
Right. Well, no, I think a lot of young people might care about the graphics card. They might care about who does the graphics on the machine.
Yeah, if they're gamers, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, with more and more young people like being mobile first and only, it becomes ever less of an issue.
Did you find the answer, by the way? Is AMD
Intel seems to be taking a little bit of market share back recently?
Okay.
So I don't think that AMD has really hurt them in terms of market share, even if they are outperforming them in actual power.
Okay. And the only reason I push you to that answer is because I want to wrap here, but I didn't want to leave people hanging with like, well, what's the answer to that? But I want to wrap here because we are two of the oldest men who have ever been on this show. Because we started with me going, what's his name? Petey? Paulie? I can't remember. And ends with you going, yeah, I think maybe some of the kids would care about that.
Yeah, shut up and pass my Metamucil.
Yeah, and get off my lawn.